It is officially the beginning of April, which can only mean one thing. That software update we've been waiting for our 2026 Volkswagen Tiguan SEL R-Line turbos. In today's video, we're going to go over what's going on with this software update. I stopped by a few Volkswagen dealerships to get an idea as to what is going on here with our crossovers. Is it coming out before the end of April? And also, who's getting it and who isn't? Over the past 2 weeks, I received a number of DMs and comments on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, asking me, Mike, what is going on with this software update? Mike, I'm looking at buying a Volkswagen Tiguan, not necessarily an SEL R-Line turbo, but I want to have reassurances that I'm going to be okay if I'm looking at buying an SE R-Line Black, or an S. And I also been receiving questions like this where, Mike, my Volkswagen dealership is telling me that a software update is coming at the end of the first week of April, not the end of April. Are you hearing the same things? Well, for that last question, I'm not hearing anything like that. In fact, all the dealers I have gone to have told me there's no concrete timeline. They haven't heard from their regional reps. So that already answers a few of the questions that I had, which was, is it coming out this week or is it coming out at the end of April? They couldn't give me a timeline. I would say at this point, it's the end of April. But maybe, just maybe, that the software update that everyone's talking about is a bit of a confusion. Because if it is being issued to Tiguans, that tells me that we're not going to get a recall. In fact, it'll just simply be a TSB. More on that in a minute, because a recall would be the best case scenario, and a TSB, not so much. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But with Volkswagen, they already have a recall for the Volkswagen Jetta and Taos. It was issued April Fool's Day, of all days, for, guess what? A software problem. 83,000 Jettas and Taos models are affected with a digital gauge cluster that is blacking out. And there's no fix for it. Because it is a safety issue, and the government mandates that a digital gauge cluster has to work to show the speedometer, to show the fuel range, Volkswagen was forced to issue a recall. Now, with the Volkswagen Tiguan, the question here is the check engine light, limp modes, error codes a safety issue, or is it just going to be one of those situations where it's going to be a simple TSB and a simple software fix? Because I think that's subjective. As an owner, we can say it's a safety issue, but maybe under the government standards, it isn't. So who really knows in that way? I'm not going to dive into that and get into speculation. But it's possible that why we don't have a software update right now, or there's rumors swirling, is one, Volkswagen's already dealing with a recall right now with the Jetta and Taos. They don't want to issue another one for their best-selling model. And then two, that software update might not even be for our vehicles. So I want to dive into the questions that I had for my Volkswagen dealerships and the answers they gave me to give us a better idea as to what is going on, who's affected, who's getting the software update, who isn't, and also get into what to expect by the end of April. So the first question, of course, was the timeline. And we've already answered that. They don't have anything. They haven't heard anything. So we're just going to be sitting and waiting for a while, in my opinion. Maybe by the middle to the end of April, we'll at least have something where we can go in and get the software update. The next question I had is this solely for the SEL R-Line turbo? And they said yes. And that backs up what I had heard about a month and a half ago, where the original TSB was solely for the SEL R-Line turbo and a specific engine code. So the other three trims have less power, 201 horsepower, 221 pound-feet of torque. They're exempt from this. They don't need to worry about this. If you're looking at buying those three models, you're fine. It's just the SEL R-Line turbo. This led me into the next question, which was, will every SEL R-Line turbo have to come in for this software update? Now, this is something that I think is a bit interesting, because we've had all these theories that it's a cold weather problem, that it's a specific date problem. And it sounds like to me, it doesn't matter what build date you had. It doesn't matter where you live. If this software update does come out, everyone's going to know about it. It will be available for all regions: Canada, Northern U.S., Southern U.S. Because I have seen a number of people over the past 7 to 10 days in Florida, in California, in Georgia, in Texas, complaining about having a check engine light and limp mode. This is no longer a cold weather problem. This is now something that is affecting a lot of SEL R-Line turbos, regardless of climate. However, though, they did tell me that it depends on what Volkswagen does here. And this is where we get into the TSB and the recall, and why I think the recall is the best case scenario for all of us. Volkswagen can issue another TSB in April, and if you have a check engine light, limp mode, error codes, you can go in have it serviced. And if those error codes matches the TSB, you'll get the software update. So for those of you who currently are without your Volkswagen Tiguans, you might get first dibs on that software update. Makes sense since you're already in, and maybe that's why we're already hearing some people getting this software update. Could still be in the testing phase, we really don't know. On the downside, if you're like me and you don't have any error codes popping up, you don't have a check engine light or limp mode, and all you're experiencing is minor tech glitches, you are not eligible for this software update. So just keep all of this in mind here, that if you currently own a Volkswagen Tiguan SEL R-Line Turbo and you're concerned about this, you may not have a remedy until it happens to you. Now, I have asked around with other Volkswagen-related brands, more specifically Audi, and their software issues are very well documented. Everyone that I know that works at dealerships has heard about them, they know about them. And this was for the A5, Q5, and Q6, the PPC platform. Their software issues were far more extensive, and their software updates, they're already on the second one, and I think a third one is already being developed. So they're way ahead of us on this. When those software updates came out, there was no recall. In fact, it was a simple TSB, which is why we have heard new buyers coming in, purchasing a 2025 A5 or Q5, and then 1,000 miles in, getting the check engine lights, getting the limp modes, because the software updates were not installed on new inventory. So there's always been this theory that, well, if a software update is out, well, then every vehicle is going to have it. Not the case. And the reason why is because there is the potential that these software updates do fail. And at least for Audi, there was a 90% success rate, 10% chance it wasn't going to work, and in fact, bricked the ECU, fried the ECU. There hasn't been a lot of cases of that, but some people have complained that their vehicle became inoperable. So that's one thing to keep in mind there. I think it might be more of a liability issue if Volkswagen doesn't issue a recall, because with the liability, they don't want to deal with new vehicles coming in that have no error codes, nothing, and then you drive off the lot, and then there you go, your vehicle has some problems. So I think from a liability perspective, if this is not a safety problem that the government's going to say you have to do this recall, I think from the dealer side and also from corporate, they're not going to issue a recall if they don't have to. But then let's get into the recall and what Volkswagen will do here. Thankfully, my dealerships have been great. They told me what to expect, what to look forward to. If a recall is issued, which I would expect to be already out now, if they were going to do it, you'd get a notification on your Volkswagen app first, and then the dealership would call you. So at least you'll have a heads up as to what is going on. So keep all this in mind. Keep your eye on that Volkswagen app and stay tuned with what's going on with a potential recall or TSB. Now, with a recall, everyone's going in, regardless of build dates, regardless of where you live. And that, to me, is the best case scenario, because you get the software update, and at least in theory, you should be fine, right? You can go on with the rest of your ownership experience with the Volkswagen Tiguan. You can go on those road trips. You can drive to work every day and not worry about a potential issue or mechanical problems popping up, because it does sound like this is software. This is not a mechanical issue. Turbos are not blowing. So I think we can stick with the software and say that if we can get this glitch fixed, we'll be fine. But at the moment, it sounds like we're leaning towards the TSB, which again, doesn't make me feel any good. And I'm sure doesn't make a lot of you feel good. But for those of you currently down and out with your Volkswagen Tiguans that are not driving them, you're going to have a fix one way or another. So there's good news, there's bad news, and still a lot of uncertainty. I would still expect to see something be released by the end of the month. But seeing as though the Volkswagen's dealing with multiple recalls already, they had a recall for the Jetta, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now they have another one for the digital gauge cluster. It's a mess. I think there's a PR nightmare coming for Volkswagen. They don't want to issue a recall for the Volkswagen Tiguan either. Basically, that's all I have here regarding information for the software updates and the Volkswagen Tiguan. I'm still leaning towards the end of April. And hopefully we do hear something concrete, because everything is rumors, everything's unverified information. And I've been sitting on some stuff for the past 2 or 3 weeks, but there's just no way to verify it. And instead of making a video where I'm not much of a help and all I'm doing is sharing stuff that is all being posted on social media and the ownership forums, I wanted to wait until I could talk to somebody and get a better idea. But it sounds like right now there's only 2 choices here. It's a TSB or recall. And you guys know where I'm leaning, where I want it to be. But I think right now, if the software update is out for the Volkswagen Tiguan this week, where some people are getting it, it's either 1 in the testing phase Or two, some dealerships are taking precedence right now. They're taking top priority, and Volkswagen's giving them the software updates to see if it works. And if it does, then everyone gets it. But if that's the case, it's not going to be a recall. It's going to be that TSB. So keep all of this in mind. Stay laser focused on this. I'm going to be focusing on it as well because I want to have that update done. I want to be able to put all this behind me. I know you guys too. But so far at the moment, we're still sitting and waiting.